Stand by. Roll sound.
Keep everyone back, please, guys.
Turn over cameras.
Put a 22 on it.
Back.
When I take one, I come up with the frame. Full A camera, full B, full frame.
Action.
Pub.
We had a fan base, if you like, who loved the show, and some of the feedback we were getting from them was, please don't spoil it, don't thrash it to within an inch of its life, like a lot of long-running series, especially American series, go. And I think we listened to that a bit, didn't we? You know, we had tremendous support all through the first two series, and we thought, well, maybe to go out on a high is not the worst thing in the world.
We knew we wanted to end it at some point. We knew how it was going to end. It was like a concertina. It was just a question of how long you stretched it out. And I was worried about stretching it out. Once it was a hit, that the pressure is then on to maybe make it run for 4 years or 5 years or 6 years. And I was thinking, as wonderful a gift as that is to do, to be given that amount of time to tell a story, can we sustain it for that long?
I think we'd set ourselves quite a big challenge. We'd set up some quite big expectations in series one about how we could, how it would all get tied up.
We talked about the possibility of leaving series two on a very big and very dark cliffhanger. I likened it a bit to the three early Star Wars films. The first Star Wars film had a happy ending. The second one, Empire Strikes Back, had a big, dark, scary cliffhanger, and you knew you had to come back for the third one to see how it was all going to get resolved. And we talked about doing that.
And then we decided, for various reasons, that we should get out while the show's good, and we'd done, 16 episodes, and we had to conclude it. And I think, obviously Matthew and Ashley knew exactly how they were going to end it, but they just, weren't prepared to tell us, obviously, because there was talk of going to the third series. But we just felt another 8 would have just maybe pushed it beyond its extended life.
As writers, we were quite tempted to do a Christmas two-parter, wasn't it? Because we wanted to have
a very
Slade and Morgan Wise.
Yeah.
That was because we were writers.
Yeah. But then, actually, funnily enough, I think it was the BBC actually said to us, are you sure you can't do at the end of series 2 what you're talking about doing in a special sort of two-parter? And suddenly, when we realised that it was actually better maybe to end it at the end of series 2, it gave the series a huge momentum, because suddenly we weren't hurtling towards a cliffhanger, we were hurtling towards the end, and that was very exciting.
It was a very particular kind of series that was driven hugely by one character, and the kind of the world he enters into, and his journey, which had to have some kind of conclusion, because he had come into this world and we had to know whether he was going to come out of it.
It's very similar to The Wizard of Oz. And it is that type of story where somebody's disillusioned in their black and white world and nothing's happening, and they wish they could be somewhere else, over the rainbow, and they find themselves in this colourful world, and yet it isn't all they expected it to be. And actually, even though it's bright, it's colourful, it's camp, and there's a lot going on, they just want nothing more than to go back home.
Look, we both know.
So many directions for him to go in. Does he stay in 2006, but he's wiser? Does he bring Gene Hunt with him back into 2006? There was that idea that maybe somehow he imagines Gene Hunt in 2006, and there's a bit of fun to be had with that. Does he just think he's Lucky Stars, he's out of the whole thing? Does he, as one idea mooted was that he sort of goes and somehow finds an aged Annie.
Oh yeah.
But really, these were kind of digressions from the thing we always wanted, which was that he has it's like the Trainspotting: choose life, choose death, choose what you want, and he chooses to go back to that world where he feels more alive than he's ever felt.
I wake up every morning and I tell myself I am alive.
When you can feel, then you're alive. When you don't feel, you're not.
And we secretively had to make a decision, because I said, I kind of need to know where Sam is, because he needs to feel that he doesn't know where he is, and that's okay. But if I don't know where he is and what he's going through, then we could end up being all over the place. So
and we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know the conclusion to the series. We had ideas and we talked about it. We all had our theories. We all threw in, you know, what about this? You know, everybody threw in their ideas. You know, we should wake up in the good life. You know, in the vegetable patch between Tom and Barbara. Where am I? Oh, Christ, I'm in the good life.
In episode 1 of series 2, we wanted to kind of throw a spanner in the works for the audience, because there would be a notion to say that Sam is definitively in a coma. So we thought we'd seed in these phone calls from Hyde from episode 1, whereby the viewer starts to question, actually, these voices in Sam's head, these phone calls he's been receiving, could well be just his imagination, and it kind of feeds into the notion that Sam is actually mad but existing in 1973. But we want the audience to constantly question that, so we'd only drip feed this information, and then when Morgan appears in episode 7, there's a kind of truth to this, but then by introducing other voices, other coma elements, then Sam again and the audience have to continually question this.
You've lost your memory and replaced it with your undercover identity.
I really like the last episode. It's hugely complicated, and it's like, you know, it's like Lord of the Rings. It's like in an hour, but it's great. It's great. I like it. I like the way it finishes.
I think that was the key to episode 8. You question everything that's happened in the.
I created the idea of the tumour in Sam's head because I wanted there to be something physical that we could imagine had started to exist in Sam's body. There was some physical manifestation of his commitment to 73. Sounds a strange thing to say, but I think also it was a good driving factor through episode 8, the idea of cutting out the tumour. There was this surgeon in 2006 saying, I'm going to cut the tumour out. And in 73, Sam was going to betray Jean, excise the tumour that was existing in the police force of corrupt or sort of lazy, whatever you want to call it, old-fashioned policing. So it was a good way of running those sort of parallel, those metaphors.
I just went with the flow, really. You know, I just kept playing the character. And then it was like, oh, you're the cancer of it. And you go, whoa, 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 whoa. You know, am I? I thought that was Morgan. Or, you know.
Yeah, destroy Gene Hunt. He's out of control, Sam. Like a cancer. The sooner we cut him out, the sooner I can leave.
I always sort of looked at it as if, as well, from sort of Sam's mind point of view. So everything's starting to change in episode 8, so even the characters that he thought were really solid, like Chris with him, can maybe show a different side.
Sam, Ray was always giving it loads, but to see a different side of Chris there, that was more of a poignant moment, I think.
It was weird doing the last 2, because to put Sam up against him was kind of, I don't know, it was difficult to do, because I think we've spent 2 series developing this brilliant cop partnership, me and him, and it's a great partnership. And I think, you know, they've learned and they learn from each other, and you know they take from each other, and they become friends, and you know, and they trust each other. I mean, I think at the end of episode 2, I watched the rough cut of that with Phil, and. We had a lump in our throat at the end, you know, give each other a big hug at the end. It was really sweet.
Do you want my appraisal of you?
No. If you're around, then.
The only way we would believe or even like Sam enough to betray Jean was if he thought that Jean was literally
a cancer
in his brain that had to be cut out. Otherwise, he would never do. And throughout episode 8, because he's such a brilliant actor, you see that tension behind his eyes. That, you know, although I'm doing the right thing, I'm betraying the people that I've lived with in 1973, and that gives that last episode its energy, I think, and its conflict.
Knew that we wanted to kind of find a portal through which Sam would travel back to 2006, and it was at a very early meeting on series 2 where the notion of a bright white light was kind of introduced, and this notion of perhaps it being a train and a train tunnel. So we were always working towards that as the end goal. And obviously it was through Matthew's development of episode 8 and kind of SJ's imagination of how that bright white light would appear that kind of led to the ultimate sequence that you see on screen.
He'd always had great ideas from the beginning about a tunnel and a white light. So what was great for me is we talked about that in the very beginning, in the very early stages of episode 1. We'd always talked about this possible white light, and that's why in episode 1 there are elements of a white light coming through. When he has moments of pain, there's quite a bright overexposure in the camera, actually, which represents this white light of whatever is to come.
The tunnel,
the light,
the railway tunnel,
the 73 at the other. That's always talked about as an image in the story.
When they see him waking up in 2006, I hope what people felt was total disappointment. That's what I want them to feel: disappointed, frustrated, frightened that this is the end of the show. Is this how it ends? It just ends with him in these streets or wandering down the high street, you know. That's what I'm really hoping. I'm hoping people are desperately worried that that's how we're going to end it, that that's the ending we've chosen.
I really didn't have a clue how they were going to end it. And I was really chuffed that they took him back to 2006 because the scenes, it just works really well, I think. Going back, it's like, it just doesn't seem right when he's in the present day. And he's desperately unhappy.
This was the point we had been anticipating as an audience. You want, because Sam wants to, you want Sam to wake up. And, you know, we were really excited about the idea that we would kind of confound that expectation by then making the present day a place that actually we didn't want to be and he didn't want to be. And, you know, hopefully in order to get to the point where we, like Sam, want him to return to 1973 and be with those people who he's come to love and he's learnt so much from and has become a person, you know, he's got to a place where he feels alive.
Putting that blue suit on again that we had at the beginning of episode 1, strange for everybody in the crew and the cast, everybody, you know, it was just odd.
The first time I wrote him waking up in that hospital back in 2006, I felt very strange, and I couldn't even bring myself to write. I normally like to write interesting scene descriptions, not because anyone's going to see those, but because it's evocative and you want to evoke a feeling and a mood and an atmosphere in the reader, because that person is going to direct your scene, it's going to act in it, going to light it, whatever. I couldn't bring myself to make those scenes sound interesting. I would just say, Sam's in another room. It's grey, you know, he's in a suit. It's blue. I just didn't want to excite anybody about 2006.
Yeah, I wanted to just take the colour away from this modern world that really, there was nothing exciting in it. Everybody had to wear black. Everybody was on a mobile phone. The colours were black, grey or blue. They're all on iPods. It was all, everybody's in their own insular world, even when he's on the bridge and everybody's on the phone. What I wanted to hear and how much I wanted it to continue for and what verses I needed. So I'd already set in my mind, and it needed to be long enough to get a sense of how lonely and cold this world was, but without making you go, oh Christ, I can't bear this, I want to turn over. You know, you couldn't, I didn't want to make it that it was so depressing, but I needed to hint that it was so depressing for Sam.
We wanted him back in 73, but it was how he got there, and I think that's where the suicide thing really sort of kicks in, is should he commit suicide? Is it suicide? I don't think it's suicide in his mind. It's not suicide at all. He's not running away from responsibility and from his life. He's actually running towards responsibility. He's running towards doing the right thing. He promised Annie he would be there for her, and he's going back.
I don't want to see it as a guy committing suicide where he just runs and jumps off. For me, I said, I've got to create this leap of faith.
He wasn't justified in 2006. He wasn't a complete person in 2006. He only existed as a complete person in 73, when he had that stuff to rage against and fight against.
I woke up in that place.
The debates about the end of the series raged endlessly from when we first started developing series 2 right through to the moment we pressed the button and said, right, that's the final picture lock on episode 8.
Even as we went into the final stages of script development and as we went into the shoot, we weren't entirely sure what would actually be the final sequence. And I know this led to the crew believing that we were shooting potentially 2 different endings, 3 different endings.
You know, what we wanted to do was to find a way that we could show a satisfying conclusion to Sam's journey. We felt we owed it to the audience to show them what had happened to him, why he was there. To see him wake up was we felt really important. You know, although we had debates about leaving it open-ended, leaving it on a question, but I think we all felt it was important for us because we knew in our heads all along what we thought had happened to Sam. It was really important for us to be able to explore that and show that in the series.
Some people would like to have left the series on the jump and perhaps not seen any more. But to other people, it was really important to see the coming together of Sam and Annie, which is obviously a very important moment for the series.
It maybe was 2 endings and they didn't tell us. But I don't know. I just thought that the roof scene blended into the coming back and saving our hero saved the day. That's all I ever thought was going to happen anyway. I didn't know they had any intention of stopping it at the roof.
The process didn't stop at all through the series. You know, there were some things that obviously most of it came through at script stage, but there were things we were adding, right up to the end of the process, even in post-production. Some of the elements that that came through in the sound post were equally as valid as, there's those ideas coming through at that stage were equally valid as some of the things we'd come up with, months before that.
And I do think the fact that SJ ensured that she left kind of black after the jump off the roof, it kind of leads the audience to think, is this the end of Sam's journey? And then we obviously go back to 1973.
I love the false ending, I do. That you just think that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And he's gone off the roof.
Mm.
And it's almost like you're expecting the credits just to appear in the bottom and then...
Yeah, that's really... Yeah, as he jumps off the roof and it just goes into blackness, you think, that's it. All of a sudden his face just comes out of the shadow. It's not it.
It's good, isn't it?
That's great.
People have wanted to know from day one what happens between Sam and Annie.
I like the kiss as well. About time they got it on.
Should have got the tongue in, though.
Yeah.
I hope they are satisfied, because I really love satisfying endings. I don't like ambiguous endings. I like emotional closure. I'm a bit of a sort of traditionalist. But and I really wanted that to feel satisfying, that ending. As long as people feel that, then I'm happy.
Yeah, and audiences have been very good to us on Life on Mars, but very faithful, and they've put forward their own ideas and theories. It's been an incredible journey, and we really, really didn't want to disappoint them. But we also had to be true to the vision that we set out to tell all those years ago. So, I really hope people like it.
I think what we have achieved is we have brought a definite ending to the story of Life on Mars, and I think we can all be proud of that. I think that we have got the balance right in terms of answering questions, but also leaving some questions up in the air that mean that the audience can take an ownership of the series as well. And there are still some unanswered questions, but we have a satisfaction of knowing what is going on in Sam's mind and what is important in Sam's imagination.
And as a pair, the two series will, they're really strong, and they should, be around for a long time.
Obviously, if there's a winning formula, and we have, which Life on Mars is a winning formula, I don't think it's really cool. I think it's really cool to leave it at 2. Really cool, How cool is that? A lot of people don't. And it's not because they didn't want it, it's just because it's a really cool thing to do, I think. They want more, it's great. Leave them wanting more, you should leave them wanting more.
Ending on the Test Car Girl, we felt was just a little nod to hopefully the fact that it's not an ordinary series, and just when you think you kind of know what's going on, something else will hopefully surprise you and make you smile, and that's hopefully what we did with the end of the series.